It is Flyers game day. It is a Saturday night. We got Saturday night hockey on the island. This is Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, Flyers Islanders tonight. Brian, it's the Final Four.
It is, yeah. Final week here coming up real quick. We have less than a week left in the season, believe it or not. And
now you know why I'm miserable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's why I was miserable yesterday too, because there was no games yesterday.
There were no games, and it's very, very interesting the way that all played out. No games yesterday, all the games today. This is apparently the first 16-game day in league history, which is only, you can only have 16 games as of last year, obviously. We had a lot of 15-game days over the years, but, there were never, there were never 16 teams worth of teams until Seattle came in, and they just didn't do it last year. So I think it's a little bit of a misnomer, because I know there's been days when all the teams have played. There's been 15-game days in the past, and that's all 30 teams at the time. This year it happens to be all 32. So, it's a busy day around the league, and it was kind of kidding around with some of the people in the league level that have to monitor, like, all the games. And I'm sure you guys love this, don't you? 12 p.m. to probably 2 a.m. in the East, they got to keep an eye on everything.
Yeah, the war room's going to be going through a lot of Red Bulls, 5-hour energies, and coffee today, no doubt.
All hands on deck. Yep, that's for sure.
Shift changes, the whole thing. I thought it was a little bit of a missed opportunity yesterday when you're coming down to the final week to not have any games with some of these playoff races. And, the team the Flyers are playing tonight is one of those teams in a dogfight right now.
It is, and Fridays are typically a light night in the NHL anyway. I don't know exactly if there was a specific reason for doing it the way they did it, or whatever. I know, we're sitting around here going out to dinner and whatnot. You look up at the TVs, and there's a lot of what looked like high stakes basketball on, and a good bit of that was on TNT. They had a doubleheader last night, so maybe you're looking at from the standpoint of your national partners are dealing with the Masters and with the NBA during the week, and so you just wait to get to Saturday and then make a huge day out of it. So I'm sure there's pros and cons to it, definitely.
Yeah, that's the thing, is why compete if you don't have to?
Right.
To me, it's kind of like fish where the fish are. And if your audience is distracted with some other things going on, then don't give them the opportunity to miss your game and have to make the choice if there's no choice. Right. So maybe from that standpoint, it does make sense. Now, this Islanders team, like I mentioned, they're in a dogfight here, Bri. Pittsburgh earlier today got a win over Detroit, so they catapult back into playoff positioning as wild card number 1 over Florida and the Islanders. And Florida right now on a heater as well. They've won 5 straight. How about behind the goaltending of Alex Lyon, who made 56 saves the other day? Like, what is going on?
Where did this come from? Yeah, my goodness. And you're happy for him. You're extremely happy for him that this is going on, and maybe he gets to carry them on a run into the playoffs. Who knows? But it certainly has kind of come out of nowhere for him. And for the Flyers standpoint, this is the second straight game that they're going up against a team that has a whole lot on the line in terms of what's going on in the playoff race. They're obviously Islanders are trying to get in, first of all, but they also have the opportunity to try to miss Boston in that first round. So, they want all the points they can get here over their final 3, basically. There'll be 3 games, including tonight, left for them, whereas the Flyers have 4 left, including tonight. Everything, is absolutely vital for them. And so, they're going to be putting everything they can out there, just like the other night. Dallas gets that win, and they are now, tied for the lead in the Central, 2 points ahead of Minnesota. That's the kind of thing that these guys are going up against. Flyers aren't really concerned about that. They're just going to go about their business, do their game, and try to, go out there and just play the right way. Still looking at several things in this lineup, putting guys maybe in one place or another over the course of a game just to see how they work on one wing or on one side of the deep pair, that sort of thing. So Flyers have their own things that they're going to try to take care of tonight.
One of those things is going to be moving Wade Allison to the off wing. Owen Tippett has gotten some time there, and Torch said he didn't look great there and, wasn't as effective. And that is an art to play your off wing, because you're on your backhand in situations where you don't want to be on your backhand, but especially exiting the zone. But we'll see Wade Allison. I'm not sure if in college he ever played some off wing or not, but We'll see that tonight. But I think really the big story going into this game tonight from a Flyer standpoint, Bri, as Carter Hart gets the start tonight, that's a story in itself with Boston tomorrow. But the fact that Tony DeAngelo is scratched for a second straight game, Ronnie Attard sent back down, Justin Braun's going to come in, but no Tony DeAngelo in this game either.
Yeah, and we didn't really get a whole lot of clarification or anything on that, on why it's Braun going in instead of DeAngelo. I don't know too much about what's going on there with that whole situation overall. There is, again, we have a short turnaround back-to-back tomorrow, and, it is it's a very short flight tonight, but the Flyers are coming off a week-long road trip. They left Philadelphia a week ago tonight, and so it's been a bit of a haul here over the last few days. And so, that's one of those games where you're looking for some energy. It very, very well could be that you see, you see a DeAngelo come in for a Braun or something like that. There's also, some chatter that the Flyers are going to maybe look at another defenseman from High Valley, and that may not be until Tuesday. The Phantoms come into this weekend. They won last night against Charlotte. And then so they come into tonight, I believe, having the opportunity to clinch if they get some help. I believe Wilkes-Barre Scranton has to lose under one or two different circumstances, and the Phantoms win, they'll clinch. But they have a magic number of 3 now. So they could have this wrapped up by the end of the weekend, and maybe those last 3 games are moot, at least from that standpoint. You're sure that Ian LaPerriere is going to want his guys firing on all cylinders going into the playoffs there, but they have 3 games left, I think, after Sunday. So, they'll play into the weekend and then go from there.
Yeah, and I imagine that other D-man that's going to be caught up is going to be the Swede, Adam Ginning, maybe the guy that gets called up. I doubt it's Emil Andre. By the way, it's Andre. I asked him the other day. It's not Andrea, as I was calling him before, because I heard somebody call him that. But, I imagine it's Ginning, and that he'll get the call up, and he'll get a look at the NHL level as well, which is great. I mean, the amount of guys you can give some experience to so they can go into their offseason that have had good years with Lehigh Valley to come up here and get some time, I think is really a great thing for them. So,
so we'll see where that goes. I don't pay more attention to them other than anecdotally. We get the scores emailed to us. We have a little bit of I don't even want to call it an insider look. Like we know we get the scores in our email without having to look them up. So that's about the extent. But I sat down the other night, was looking through the Phantoms statistics from this year, and for some reason Adam Ginning is a plus 25, and that is 9 more better than the next player on the roster, and it is a whole lot more than that better than the next defenseman on the roster. I believe it's Ronnie Attard is a plus 9. And for some reason, Adam Ginning is a plus 25. I mean, there's not a huge scoring line there. He's got 19.64 games, 61 penalty minutes, so definitely a physical player, but plus 25. I mean, something's going right there. Even if you don't like plus minus as a stat anymore, something's going well there for him. So, yeah, it'll be good to see him really for the first time. I'm not sure I've seen him play at all outside of, probably a preseason look here and there.
Yeah, the thing is when you see this, like I tend to put a lot in the plus minus because the guy can jump over the boards and not even get into the play and get some minus. But when you see the disparity over a large sample size of 20, nobody's even close to him, there's something to it. That's the way I look at it. So we'll see if they get a look at him. The Islanders are one of those teams, Bri. It was odd because you look at the pandemic and how it affected teams, and I think it affected the Islanders. Although they went to 2 straight conference finals, they missed last year, and they start out that year with that huge long road trip, and Barry Trotz is out. Something, some coaches, I think, rub teams the wrong way during the pandemic. But, well, actually, you know what? Let's take a timeout here on Flyers Game Day. We'll pick that up on the other side because I think it's worth talking about because they're a team trying to get back to the playoffs in their post-Trotz era, Wayne Lambert as a coach. But we'll talk about that and more as we count down to Flyers and Islanders tonight. It is the final 4 games of the 2022-23 season. Tim Saunders and Steve Coates at the top of the hour. They've got the countdown to face-off, or bottom of the hour, I should say, and all the first period action. We're back after this on Flyers Game Day on the Bet Rivers Flyers Broadcast Network. It is the Flyers Islanders tonight. Flyers game day brought to you by Betway. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. Flyers on the island tonight. 2 more road games. It'll be tonight and Thursday against Chicago for the final game, and 2 more home games tomorrow against Boston and then Tuesday against Columbus. But let's pick up that conversation, Brian, because the pandemic and how it affected teams. And, I get the sense that, from Kevin Kurz, who covers the Islanders now, that maybe the pandemic wasn't great for Barry Trotz and the message, and they make the change, and Trotz not coaching. He's back with Nashville in a different role, but this team still is one of those teams, if they get into the playoffs, I think can do some damage because they're a big, heavy team, and they've got 2 elements that I think are key when it comes to playoff success and being one of the best teams in the league. It is goaltending, and it is goals allowed per games played. They're 4th in the NHL. Very Barry Trotz-like, mind you, without him there. They allow 2.66 goals per game. And when you look at the top 10 teams in the NHL in goals allowed per games played with the least amount, they're all legitimate cup contenders.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, when you look at his track record, it's really kind of interesting to me. David Poile obviously was in Nashville for a very, very long time. He's going to retire here after being the only GM I believe that team has ever had. And then for the first 15, 16 years of that, Barry Trotz was his head coach. And that's staggering. I mean, you don't see that at all anymore in this day and age in the NHL. But then he goes to, to me, it's a very strange segue from there. He goes to Washington. He wins the Stanley Cup, and then he's not the coach anymore. And granted, that was rumored to be contractual, things like that. Why he left, I'm not, I don't think we're really privy to it, but that's what it was rumored to be. He goes to the Islanders and, again, gets to the semifinals twice, semifinal level, the conference finals.
Runs into Tampa.
runs into the Tampa juggernaut. And then, again, you're right, coming out of COVID, they missed the playoffs. And, that's always going to be a red flag, I guess, if you're working for Lou Lamoriello. So, it's just, I just find it interesting that he was one place for 15 years and then had 2 stints of 4 years at 2 other teams under 2 other general managers. It kind of makes you wonder, okay, who's the problem here? But
and a ton of success. He won a cup and went to 2 conference finals. It's bizarre.
Right. Yeah. So now he's poised to take over in Nashville, at some point this summer, I would imagine. But this team still has his fingerprints all over it, obviously. I think they got to where they did because of the way they were being developed by Barry Trotz. I don't know for sure when Lou came in, but was Trotz not there when Lou took over? Like, it started, I think, before that.
Lou came in and it was Doug Waite was the coach.
In
his last year, and they gave up the most goals in the league, and then they shaved off 102 year to year and gave up the least.
And that's exactly it. Like, they benefit from Washington's penny pinching, and he comes in and he completely turns that around. So I'm sure that there was some Lou influence on that, but a lot of these guys that are right now, the core of this team, you've got a lot of guys on this team that were born in the mid 90s and later. A lot of them came of age under the tutelage of Barry Trotz. So his style is still very much on this team, and they're having at least some success this year in terms of being back in the battle for playoff positioning.
Yeah, and his protege takes over, who is, the system hasn't really changed, so it's very similar. It's not like learning a new system; it's just hearing about it from a different voice.
Right.
So maybe Barry just got surly with his older age. I don't know.
You could, and I would imagine, especially if you got a guy like him who's got aspirations to move up. I'm sure that working for someone like Lou Lamoriello may not go too well if you have aspirations to kind of run a team and things like that. The way, like, I can't even imagine John Tortorella working for Lou Lamoriello. Maybe I'm off base there, but it just does not seem like a good match. So
you got to be subservient to work for Lou.
You have to be a little bit of a certain type of coach to work under him. So, but yeah, you're right. Lane Lambert was right there with Barry Trotz, and probably not a lot of change when they made that switch.
I can't imagine what it was like with Babcock and Lou.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, especially in a market like and with Lou there, I mean, he's in the middle of some sort of hierarchy involving a lot of other people, and that
Yeah.
he's not the guy, and that's not the way he he has worked his career either. So
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he controls how many ice cubes the media has in their drink at press dinner.
yeah. I was
Very
sort of surprised he wasn't there to make sure we were using like the right restrooms at the building today, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he may be at some point.
Probably watching through some cameras. I tell you what, no reason to delve into this and bore the audience, but you might get a kick out of this. It's the first building I've ever seen retinal scanners to open doors. It's like
Really?
it's like Mission Impossible.
Wow.
Just certain, not all doors, just certain doors, but it's like I've seen swipe cards and all that, but they had flat out retinal scanners. Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow. That's pretty nuts. The guy leading the way for them in that has been Sorokin this year. There's kind of a notion, Bri, that he's a young guy because he hasn't been in the NHL very long. He's actually 27 because he came over after all those years in the KHL. Very similar to Shesterkin. And it's the Russian goaltending team of Sorokin and Varlamov. Both have been good. Varlamov's got a .913 save percentage in 23 appearances. And Sorokin's got the third highest in the league at .924 in 59 appearances. Get used to seeing this guy, Flyer fans. He is another good one from Russia. And the record this year is he's just been great. 29, 21, and 7. Again, that .924 save percentage and a 2.38 goals against and 5 shutouts, which I think is tied for the league lead with Georgiev. So he's a guy that the Flyers are going to have to deal with. Really good goalie. And, that's part of tonight's game. Flyers are a team that struggles to score. They got to find a way to put the puck in the net. And the best way to do it against a goalie like that is really just to crowd the hell out of him around his crease.
Yeah, that's how you got to get lots of guys going. We had one the other night in St. Louis where that's the way that you rattle Jordan Bennington is just to get in there and get some traffic around him. The one thing that came to mind when you mentioned that is it's for me another reason that I think some Flyers fans have given up a little bit on the idea of Ivan Fedotov ever coming over. They're thinking, okay, well, what's going on there? Like how long is it going to take him to get out of there, and how old will he be when he gets there? Well, he's younger than Sorokin and I believe Shesterkin. He's 26. He'll turn 27 this year. So, I don't know how long it's going to take the situation to blow over there. The only problem that he's having right now is he's not playing hockey. A lot of these guys that come from Russia, like these two here that we've got in our division, they come over and they kind of get into their prime a little bit later than most other players would. So it's certainly interesting to watch that whole thing develop, and it's even more interesting to me to watch the whole thing develop when it comes to drafting Russian players in the draft this year, because one of the guys that could be in the Flyers' wheelhouse, depending on how they do in the lottery, is a really highly regarded Russian prospect. It's like, but can you get him out? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, what's the timetable for that? The Flyers do have a goalie, Alexei Kolosov, the Belarusian, in the KHL right now with Minsk Dynamo. He's played in 45 total games, got a .917 save percentage. He's done a real nice job. He's 21 years old right now, so he could be a couple of years away. So a goaltending depth is certainly something the Flyers have. When you look at playing the Islanders, you can get mesmerized real easy, Bri, watching Matthew Barzal buzz around the zone like a water bug on top of the pond and stick handling like crazy. So they're going to have to really be cognizant when he's out there. But they got some big guys too, and that certainly presents a challenge from a muscle standpoint for guys like Travis Sanheim. I mean, we saw that series, that 7-game series in the second round in the bubble, and kind of what those bodies, Anders Lee, and how they can really get close to the net and get in on the forecheck and really create a lot of havoc. And Hart's going to have to deal with that tonight, and as he goes and gets to start for the Flyers.
Yeah, he'll get another start here tonight, and I don't know if that means. Doesn't it have to mean that you go with Sandstrom tomorrow? I don't know. It's very
especially with 22 and a half hours between face drop,
right?
Puck drop,
and that's the other variable in this weekend for the Flyers is tomorrow rolls in the Boston Bruins, and Boston depending on how seriously they're taking this set a new record thing, I don't know how much they're putting into their games these days, but they're trying to set an NHL record apparently for the most points ever in a season, which I believe needs to be taken with a grain of salt given the shootout era. But they're in the number of games that they play too. It's certainly going to be a tall order for Carter tonight, and he's back after missing a week and a half, I guess. So it would be his first situation where he's playing consecutive games for the team, even though it's not back-to-back nights. So, he looked solid, I thought, in Dallas. He had one goal he probably would have wanted back, I think, maybe the one that was the giveaway behind the net to Provorov.
Miscommunication.
Then he got back out front in time, but he didn't get down quick enough. But that rest of them, nothing he could do about any of them. And so, it's probably good for him to, be able to go out on the season on a high note. He's had a tremendous season. It's kind of been wasted, unfortunately, but you just want him to have the utmost confidence going into the off season that he's at the top of his game and can continue that come the fall.
Yeah, I think it's important for him to finish the season healthy and available because the last 2 years he didn't.
He's not. And
I think that's an important thing. And I know he talked about it this week about pushing to come back because of that element of it. So I think that is an important factor. So good goaltending matchup tonight in the Metro. Hart versus Sorokin. By the way, the Bruins are in action tonight at home at TD Garden. They're facing the Devils, and at 8:00. I've never seen so many, short turnaround games in the NHL like we have this year. But I guess it's all you might renegotiate that for the next CBA. We shall see. So Flyers and Islanders tonight at UBS Arena. I want to call it USB every time. That is tonight. And you're listening to Flyers Game Day. And we'll have the countdown to face-off coming up between the Flyers and the Islanders, all the first period action with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates. But let's take our last time out here. It's Flyers Game Day. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez. It's brought to you by Betway on the Flyers Broadcast Network.